Ethan Mercer froze as a dark SUV tumbled down the slope. One flip, two flips, then vanished behind a wall of swirling snow. His heart pounded, memories of loss cutting sharp. Without thinking, he sprinted into the storm, driven by a single instinct. He couldn't let anyone die alone, not like she had. When he reached the wreck, the vehicle was mangled, snow already claiming it. Inside, barely conscious, slumped a woman, shivering, pale, fighting for life against the blizzard. In that instant, Ethan didn't see a CEO or a billionaire. He saw someone fragile, human, and in desperate need of help. But before we dive into what happens next, I'd love to know, where are you tuning in from today? Drop your country in the comment below and please like the video. Thank you. Now let's continue. The wind screamed across the jagged peaks of the northern mountains, rattling the skeletal trees and whipping the snow into blinding sheets. Ethan Mercer trudged along the narrow trail, his boots sinking into powder with every step. He had been hiking alone, his mind wandering over memories he tried not to think about, when the sight of a dark SUV tumbling down the slope froze him in place. One flip, two flips. Then the vehicle vanished behind a swirling wall of snow so thick it seemed as if the mountain itself had swallowed it. For a brief moment, Ethan froze, the cold air slicing his lungs, and a memory struck him like lightning. Another accident years ago had taken his wife. He remembered the helplessness, the frantic waiting, the despair of knowing there was no one to pull her from the wreckage. The pain still haunted him, sharp as ice. But then instinct took over. He sprinted. The snow was deep, the wind vicious, but he did not stop. He did not question whether anyone inside the SUV was alive. He only knew that he could not let another person die alone in the cold, that he would not fail them the way he had failed her. By the time he reached the vehicle, snow had already begun to claim it. The SUV was twisted and broken, windows shattered, metal mangled like discarded tin. Ethan's heart raced as he fought to open the doors. Inside, barely conscious, slumped a woman, her body trembling with cold. Her chest rose and fell with shallow, uneven breaths, her face pale and streaked with frozen droplets of melted snow. Her hair clung damply to her skin, and a fine cut ran along her temple, glistening faintly red in the fading daylight. Her name, Ethan would learn later, was Lila Hawthorne. To the world, she was untouchable, a CEO of a billion-dollar tech company, known for ruthless ambition, sharp intellect, and absolute control over her empire. To Ethan right now, she was just human, fragile and vulnerable, fighting for life against the storm. He lifted her carefully, surprised at how light she felt, and at that moment, the disparity between her public image and this vulnerable reality struck him. She murmured something incoherent, but the words dissolved into the wind before they could reach him. The blizzard raged on, visibility shrinking to almost nothing. There was no way to safely navigate the trail with her in his arms. But Ethan knew of one place. He had stumbled upon it years ago during a winter hike with his son, Miles. An abandoned cabin, long forgotten by the outside world, tucked into a grove of frostbitten pines, had once been a sanctuary for travelers. He prayed it had withstood the years and the harsh winters. Miraculously, the cabin still stood. Its roof sagged under the weight of snow, and its walls creaked as if groaning under the same pressure. Ethan forced open the rusty door, stepping into the dim interior, and laid Lila gently on a pile of old quilts. The air inside was cold and stale, filled with the scent of dust and time. There was no fireplace, only a metal stove that looked as though it might collapse under scrutiny. Yet he coaxed a flame from it with practiced patience. The room gradually warmed, though the chill clung stubbornly to the walls, floor, and ceiling, like it had no intention of leaving. Lila blinked awake, her eyes foggy with confusion, as the pale light filtered through frost-covered windows. Her breaths came shallow and uneven, the red dress she wore now soaked and clinging, utterly unsuited for the mountain trail and sub-zero temperatures. She wrapped her arms around herself instinctively, trying to stave off the shivers, but Ethan could see how exhausted she truly was. He found an old, thick blanket, rough and dusty, and draped it across her shoulders. She clutched it, pressing it to herself as though it contained all the warmth left in the world. Hours passed in the cabin, the storm outside relentless, yet inside a fragile pocket of safety formed. As warmth returned to her body, Lila's eyes changed. Gone were the cold, calculating eyes of the CEO. Now they were human, tired, raw, vulnerable. She tried to sit up, but the cold had settled deep into her bones, and Ethan moved to support her. Her gaze met his, and in that moment, she saw more than the rugged, calloused rescuer. She saw the lines of grief and endurance etched into his face, the weight of past sorrow carried quietly, yet steadily. Then she asked, almost a whisper, if she could share the blanket with him. Her voice carried fear and fragility, not seduction. Ethan hesitated briefly, memories of hospital rooms and cold sheets brushing against his mind, but he understood. This was survival, not propriety. Hypothermia recognized no boundaries, no titles, no pride. He nodded gently, allowing her to lean against him. Her shivering shoulder pressed against his chest, and for the first time in years, Ethan felt a different kind of warmth, not from fire but from trust. The hours stretched on, and the two remained huddled together. She smelled faintly of frost and expensive perfume, but beneath that was raw vulnerability. Lila did not speak at first. She listened to the storm, to the crackling of the stove, to the steady rhythm of Ethan's heartbeat. When she finally did speak, her words were quiet but heavy with years of unspoken truths. She confessed that she was unaccustomed to receiving kindness without strings attached, that her life had been consumed by a company she inherited after her father's death. She had not taken a real day off in nearly a decade, and she barely recognized herself anymore. Ethan did not respond with speeches or reassurances. He shared his own story, about Miles, the small life he had built after tragedy, the lessons grief had forced upon him, and the quiet power of helping without expecting anything in return. He spoke honestly, without pretense, sharing the warmth and simplicity he had learned in a world that had once been cold and unfeeling. Time seemed suspended. The storm outside raged on, but the cabin remained a sanctuary. Lila's breathing gradually steadied, her body slowly thawing from the deep freeze. Leaning against him, she found trust, safety, and a rare sense of calm. They sat together, the storm outside fading into a muted roar, and for a few precious hours, the world narrowed to this small, shared moment. Eventually, the storm softened enough for Ethan to venture outside. He fired a flare into the gray sky, a streak of red cutting through the oppressive cold. Within the hour, rescuers arrived, drawn to the signal. Lila was whisked away to a nearby medical station, with Ethan following to ensure she received proper care. He expected, perhaps, that once she returned to her polished, high-powered life, their connection would vanish as quickly as the storm had. But it did not. The next day, sunlight filtered gently across the mountains, painting the world in warm, golden light. Lila sought him out, her appearance composed but subtly altered. There was a softness in her eyes, a quiet gratitude that went beyond saving her life. She thanked him not just for rescuing her from the blizzard but for reminding her of something she had long forgotten, the simple, unadorned humanity of trust and care. She asked if she could meet Miles, and Ethan agreed, shy but deeply moved. Their worlds remained separate, yet a fragile bridge had formed between them. Not through grand gestures or sweeping promises, but through shared vulnerability, quiet courage, and the enduring power of kindness. They had survived the storm together, and in doing so, had discovered something essential: truth, connection, and the fragile beauty of human empathy. Sometimes that is all life asks: a chance to help, a willingness to trust, and the courage to open one's heart, even in the coldest, harshest conditions. If Ethan's courage and Lila's unexpected vulnerability touched your heart, imagine the many more stories waiting to inspire you. Subscribe to Kindness Journal now to discover tales of compassion, humanity, and the quiet power of helping others. Stories that remind us that even in the coldest storms, kindness can light the way. Don't just watch. Be part of a community that believes in hope, second chances, and the strength of the human spirit. Hit subscribe and let every story warm your heart.